Miss Funk, and she's going to teach a lesson today. And we're all going to watch it, okay? Give her your thoughts. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So we're going to do something that you're very used to. We're going to do writer's workshop. We know this, right? So I'm going to ask you to, I think you just need your brains. Everyone got their brains today? Yeah. Check and see. Is it in there? Wake it up if you need to. And go ahead and come join me up here on the floor. Okay, so there are lots of people watching me, so I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but as long as you guys do awesome, I'm gonna look really good. Okay? I'm putting this all on you guys. Is that okay? Yeah. Can you help me out?
Yeah.
All right, then we're gonna get started, and I'm gonna start my timer because Miss Funk likes to talk a lot, and I wanna make sure I give you lots of time to work and not me lots of time to talk, okay? So last night as I was laying down to go to sleep, I was praying and hoping that we did not have a snow day and we did not have a 2-hour delay. And I know that sounds crazy because this is the first time in my whole life I've ever thought, no, we have to have school, no snow day, no 2-hour delay, right? Never in my life have I thought this before until last night, and it was only because I was so excited to come and see you guys and do some writing with you. And on top of that, today's kind of exciting for me too because I've been teaching for a long time, like longer than you guys have been alive, but this is my first day as a teacher of having a 2-hour delay because I've not been teaching in Ohio and I've been teaching in places that we don't have snow or winter, which is great. But today was kind of exciting because it was like I got the call from Mrs. Miller at 5 in the morning, like, we're on a 2-hour delay, sleep in. And I was like, yes, and I rolled over and I went back to sleep. But I'm so excited that it was only a 2-hour delay because I get to be here with you guys today. So it worked out pretty well. So I know that you guys have been doing lots of writing in 3rd grade. Lots and lots of writing. I know that you've been writing narratives and informational reports and speeches even, persuasive speeches, right? And as writers, you guys know so much. You know how to write well. I know that. I know that. Today, I want to teach you how you can write a literary essay. Now, a literary essay seems big. It sounds really important or professional. And I'm going to tell you that literary essays are something that we write all the time. Like you're going to write them in 4th grade, in 5th grade, in 6th grade, in 10th grade, in 12th grade, in college, or maybe even in trade schools. Okay, so I'm going to teach you something today that's really important, and you can use it forever because it's going to be a structure of literary essay. So when we write a literary essay, I'm just going to turn this up. Uh-oh. I'm going to turn a couple pages up. Uh-oh. See, you guys have been writing and reading so much and doing so much math. Okay, here's a page so we don't get confused. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. So in a literary essay, the first thing we want to do is state your big, bold opinion, which is called a
thesis.
You guys already know this, right? This isn't new. I saw it on a chart over there. This is not new. This is something you already know how to do. Once you've stated your big, bold opinion or thesis, you're going to include evidence from the text. Today, it's going to be from a book or a piece of a book, a part of a book. And then you're going to elaborate. Can you guys say that word?
Elaborate.
Do you know what that word is? Anybody? Elaborate on that evidence. Any ideas? What made elaborate? That's a big word. What could elaborate mean?
It means explain.
Kiss your brain. Thank you, brain. You are exactly right. Well, yeah, I know, but that was really smart of him to use my chart. Using all of his tools. Okay, so you're right. Elaborate means to explain or tell more. So when we elaborate on that evidence, we're going to explain or say more, keep going, and keep giving more information. Okay? literary essay. This is big work. This is hard work. But I think that we're going to give it a go today, and I think you can handle it. Are you feeling like my writing muscles are ready? I'm going to give this work a go today? Or you're feeling like my brain's got okay, some of us are in the middle. I'm going to get you there. I'm going to get our writing muscles ready. So, I have part of a story called Teammates, and I'm going to pass them out. Actually, I'm going to need some help. So if you could take one and pass them back and around, and if you could take one and pass them over and back and around, and same for you, so that everyone gets one, that will help me a lot.
Oh my God.
We got an extra. I'll take it. Some extras. Can you pass one more back there? Very good. Now, this is a story that have any of you ever read the story called Teammates by Peter Gullenbach? No. Okay, so we need to take a minute, and I'm going to read this to you. I would like for you to follow along. And teachers, this is going to make our mini lesson go a little bit longer than we would want it to be because we need to read this information. This is good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to read it for you. You can follow along. And we're going to be thinking about a big, bold opinion. And I'm going to guide you through this process, okay? So Teammates, this is like the last 5 or 6 pages of the text. The Reds, the Cincinnati Reds, played in a small ballpark where the fans sat close to the field. The players could almost feel the breath of the fans on the backs of their necks. Many who came that day screamed terrible, hateful things at Jackie when the Dodgers were on the field. We're talking about Jackie Robinson, a baseball player. Okay? More than anything else, Pee Wee Reese believed in doing what was right. When he heard the fans yelling at Jackie, Pee Wee decided to take a stand. With his head high, Pee Wee walked directly from his shortstop position to where Jackie was playing first base. The taunts and shouting of the fans were ringing in Pee Wee's ears. It saddened him because he knew it could have been his friends and neighbors. Pee Wee's legs felt heavy, but he knew what he had to do. As he walked toward Jackie wearing the gray Dodger uniform, he looked into his teammates' bold, pained eyes. The first baseman had done nothing to provoke the hostility except that he sought to be treated as an equal. Jackie was grim with anger. Pee Wee smiled broadly as he reached Jackie. Jackie smiled back. Stopping beside Jackie, Pee Wee put his arm around Jackie's shoulders. An audible gasp rose from the crowd when they saw what Pee Wee had done. Then there was silence. Outlined on a sea of green grass stood these 2 great athletes, one black, one white, both wearing the same team uniform. I am standing by him, Pee Wee Reese said to the world. This man is my teammate. Okay. That was just the end of the story, so we're missing a lot of information. But Jackie Robinson, maybe some of us have heard of him, was a black baseball player playing for the Dodgers. His teammate was Pee Wee Reese. Pee Wee Reese was a white baseball player. That's some information that's important to know. Now, I want to think about a big, bold opinion. And I'm thinking that Teammates is a story that teaches me about friendship. Do you think that that could be an opinion? Do you feel like maybe I could get that from this story?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Okay, so that's what I'm thinking. Let's say that's my thesis. I need to include evidence from the text. Can you skim back over and find a space that maybe would be some evidence that I could use? What's going on in here that is telling me about friendship? Skim back over that. Give me a thumbs up when you think you got something. A thumbs up when you think you got something. Okay, can you turn and talk to a partner near you? Turn and talk to a partner. Make sure everyone has someone to chat with. Share your evidence. What did you find? What are you thinking?
When Pee-wee put his arm around Jackie and said that this guy was his teammate.
They talk together. Thank you.
What do you say? I think that's it. Yeah. I like these two because I think we got
Okay, writers, I'm going to stop you. I heard a lot of you talking about he put his arm around him. He smiled at him. He stood up for him. These are all excellent pieces of evidence. The one that I chose when I was thinking about my writing was the smile and hug. I'm going to put this right here. Yeah. Teammates is a story that teaches us a lesson about friendship. My first evidence, in the story, Pee-wee smiles and hugs Jackie. We smile and hug friends, right? So this is good evidence. Other people were mean to Jackie. That's another piece of evidence that I'm getting from this message, right? So now I need to elaborate, explain, tell more. So I was thinking my next sentence that I might want to add right here. Pee-wee knew what was right and wanted to stand up for his friend. Do you feel like that's elaborating on this? It's telling more, right? Okay. Now I want you to think of other thesis statements, other opinions, other big, bold ideas you could get about Jackie or Pee-wee or something else from this excerpt of the story. Give me a thumbs up when you have a thesis idea or an opinion idea, a big, bold opinion that you could get from this story and find some evidence on. Turn and tell your partner your idea.
My idea is with the Alpha King Jr. So that's why we were mad at him and screamed. I didn't read that. I wasn't listening. I think
What you feel
as he walked towards the gray dog platform, he looked into the team's pain eyes.
Wait, stop there. Let's think on that. What does that mean about
the hospitality is that he's shocked to be
These are big, bold pieces. These are big, bold ideas. Okay, writers, I'm going to stop you again. Some of you took it to the next step. We're pointing to places to prove our big, bold ideas. That's exactly what we have to do. So I heard some things like, Pee-wee was a good teammate. Yeah, we can probably find some evidence for that. Some more ideas that I heard and that I want to share. Jackie Robinson was treated unfairly. This is a big, bold opinion. Can we find evidence to support it in the story?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can. We could say that Pee-wee Reese is brave for standing up and walking over to Jackie in front of all the baseball fans. That's big. It takes a very brave person to do something like that. So we could say that Pee-wee Reese is brave. We could say that Pee-wee Reese does the right thing. There's evidence of that going on in this story. We could say that Jackie Robinson is a hero because he didn't stop playing baseball. He kept going. He was persevering. He was a hero. Let's put that up there. Yep, exactly. We could also even talk about the baseball fans. Are baseball fans in this story really good people? No. I think we have to say maybe they aren't, right?
They're not nice to Jackie, and they were yelling hateful things at him.
Do you guys hear this? This is huge. Baseball fans were not nice. Okay? Or not good fans.
And the reason was
There are lots of reasons. So right now, I want you to think about one of these that you feel like, that I believe that. Or maybe you have a different one. Think right now, What could you use as a thesis, as a big, bold opinion? You can use one of mine. You can use a different one that we've thought of or we've heard from our partners. Give me a thumbs up when you have your thesis. Okay, let's get our writing finger ready. We're going to write in the air. I want you to write your thesis statement in the air. Ready? Your big, bold opinion. Writing it out. Mine is here. I'm going to rewrite it in the air. You're writing yours in the air. Let's write them. Okay, we've got that on our invisible paper. Now, I want you to think. You have the text in front of you. I want you to think of one piece of evidence from the text and point to it. When you have your evidence, I want you to point to it. Pointing to that evidence. Are you finding your evidence? Oh, I'm so sorry, I just shocked you.
My evidence is there.
But it's got to be from your story. Your evidence has to come from your story, from this piece of information. Pointing. Okay, I see lots of fingers pointing. Can you turn and tell your partner your evidence that you're going to use? What evidence is supporting your big, bold thesis?
I'm trying to find when the people were shouting mean things to each other.
Pee-wee Reese bullied what you doing? Well, Mr. Friday.
What did you pick up there?
I didn't pick anything.
I did. I found the things at Jackie when the Dodgers were on the field.
Okay, writers, I'm going to stop you again. You have excellent evidence going on. I want that to be fresh in your brains when we get ready to start writing this. Some ways that we can, I wrote for my evidence, I wrote my example by starting with saying, in the story. You could also say, for example. There are lots of ways you can share this evidence. Right now, there is a piece of paper at your desk. I want you to get started on your first literary essay. Your big, bold, wait. I know, it's in your brains. I'm hurrying. Your big, bold opinion is going to be the first thing you write on your paper, just like I did here. Okay? Then you're going to get started with your evidence from the information that you have. Then you're going to elaborate. This is big work, writers, but I know you can do it, and I know you're ready. You know all kinds about writing and how to be good writers. Off you go.
That's your big opinion. What's your opinion about Jackie or anything is part of the story that I'm going today? You can borrow one of my items if you want to go take them on the floor. Okay, so that is that a high school or is that okay, that's evidence of what? Tell us about That can be his thesis statement. That can be a big goal. That's what let's use his name. Kiwi. That's the other. That's your big idea. That Peewee, yes, Peewee sticks out for his team is what you said. The word, what did you say? Okay, can I help? Let's find out. I can highlight that from the student and it's easier. Watch your start with that's evidence of what? What is your big sweet, terrible, painful rejection? That's everything fans are what? That's your thesis. The fans are that's your thesis. This is your thesis. Your thesis, you write your evidence. Yeah, that's fine.
That was when the segregation got broken and the people were being made since he was on the team. Jackie, how Jackie he was being good I was thinking that I loved Jackie and his feelings were being mean to him but he was on the baseball team and his skin was different color but that's wrong nowadays.
So that's your big bold thesis. Alright, so let's get you this right down this way.
There's somebody in that thesis.
Your first thing to say, that's right there on the chart, state your big bold thesis. Then you do your questions. Start with your thesis. I'm going to tell you, that's okay, we got there. Just do the big bold thesis. What you're doing is okay now. Are you stating your thesis? Are you including evidence? Or are you elaborating? Okay, you're including evidence. And what is your big goal?
The Boston Board committee.
Okay, that's huge. Right, that's really big bold statement. Now, with that page, what's important for your reader to know from the story?
Evidence that definition.
Yes, and how are we going to prove that?
Reading your taxes on this.
Okay, very good. Let me give you a tool. Use this highlighter to help you find some of that evidence, okay? How are you doing? What are you doing as a writer right now?
I'm talking about in this story.
Okay. So what are you trying to do as a writer now? Are you stating your thesis? Are you looking for evidence? Are you elaborating? You're looking for more evidence. Okay. So what is the evidence that you have so far?
he was directed from his shortstop is where Jackie was like the toss with the shot in
Okay, Pee-wee's legs felt heavy, but he knew what he had to do. What does that mean?
He was almost hurting. He was thinking,
Right, and that's the biggest, strongest, most powerful piece of evidence from this whole research. That's amazing. Right, I'm going to do a highlighter so you can put that in there. Awesome, isn't it? And where is After that, so our next step is to elaborate. I'm wondering, can we let them like actually what does that mean? I'm going to tell you. It means his legs feel heavy. What does that mean? That's so hard.
The night I lived for King, he wasn't there. Like segregation was happening and it wasn't building it. So she was still following that rule of segregation and we're yelling at him and every hateful things.
First one. Jackie, I'm going straight up here. Straight up here.
Yes, because segregation was happening.
Up that. Okay. That option. Right. Did you state your opinion? Yes. Did you include evidence? Did you elaborate on the evidence? So, because there's a teacher to elaborate on the evidence. Okay, awesome. And so, what was your reason?
My reason was teammates are important for helping and
And what was your evidence of that?
he stood up for chefs.
Okay, right there, that's huge. You need to elaborate. What does it mean to stand up for that?
Like he and encourage Jack good people.
Okay, that you just told me is powerful. You've got to have that. So let's work on that last step, elaborating, explaining, saying more, keeping on going. Okay, but what you have right now is really, really good.
This month I was really
Okay, and that's evidence to tell you what?
segregation.
Whoa. That's a huge word. It's a big word that shows how much you have. That's elaborating. Can you talk to me about segregation? Can you put that on here?
Yeah, but I don't know how to spell segregation. Yes, it's sort of
Sure does.
and the reason I say it's segregation because people never scream hateful things, they always scream nice things.
That's a really good piece of evidence. So I want you to get on your paper that you was segregation happening, and this is your evidence. Don't worry about that. The best you can do, and we'll fix all that. Okay? Okay, I'm going to be right back. Here's a reminder. You hold on to it. Are you good? Tell me what you're doing. Okay. Is it all on there now? Yeah. Okay. So our next step is what else can we find in here? What else can tell us that? So here's another example. They stood. Green grass stood these two great athletes together as friends. All right, writers, let me stop you for a second. Because you've been writing up a storm. You've been writing like crazy. So shake your wrists out. They might be feeling a little like, ooh. Yeah? Take a deep breath in. This is hard work. This is big work that we're doing. I want to remind you or give you two little tips and tricks. Okay? One thing that we didn't talk about that some of you are doing that's really powerful is adding the title of the story into your writing. Some of you are saying, in the story Teammates, this happened. That can make your thesis or your evidence or sometimes even your elaboration more powerful. Sometimes we can add that in. Don't worry about erasing anything, just draw it right in there, the word Teammates. This is not a fancy copy, this is a draft, so that's not important, okay? But sometimes that helps us. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I'm noticing a lot of you doing a special template. Can I borrow your paper? That looks something like this. Some of you are doing this. This is amazing. This is absolutely excellent. This is a way for us as writers to organize our information to get writing. If you didn't do it, that's also okay. But this is a really good way to organize our information. So I wanted to share that. She's so smart. She's way smarter than this one. Okay, writers, we have exactly 7 more minutes to keep writing right now. So make sure we're including our evidence and elaborating on that evidence. Let's keep going. There it is. Segregation was happening during
what was it again? And was it basketball or baseball?
Baseball. Are you doing it?
Yes, base.
Okay. Tell me what your big goal is.
Baseball. Segregation was happening during baseball.
What does that tell us about Pee-wee?
That he is a brave person and somebody who always starts
Okay, so you're giving me tons and tons of things. Pee-wee is a brave person. Pee-wee has a big heart. This is evidence of that. So I think we have to back up and look at Pee-wee is brave or Pee-wee has a big heart. So this is your evidence. And this is your information. Does that make sense? So what do you want to hear? Let's leave that. And let's just write it right up here on this first line here. That's our big thesis. The evidence is that we didn't really do anything for Jackie, and Jackie was this. That's the evidence. And then we elaborated on it. So now, can we get another piece of evidence? Is there something else that happened? And we put that in here, right? Is it in recovery? Or do you feel like you summarized it pretty well here? Okay, so now I want you to keep going. Keep elaborating on that or find another piece of evidence that supports our thesis from our story. That's okay. You do the best you can for the time that we have and then we'll worry about it. So at least get one more line. Just think. What are you trying to tell me? That's your thesis. What are you trying to do? So you're like, okay, that's good. So now let's elaborate. Look at this. Can we smile?
That is really, really big. You got it. One of them is black, one of them is white. Their teammates usually so many things. One is black, one is white. Their teammates. How do you feel when you see this? Nice smile at you. How do you feel? I gotta walk away because that was so good. You have no more words. You gotta get it.
Okay, writers, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to finish the sentence you're on. I know some of you aren't done, that's okay, but finish the idea that's in your mind and get that down. Finish up a few seconds, and then what I want you to do, writers, is bring that piece of paper with you, just your piece of paper, and come on back to the carpet. Just your writing, you don't need a pencil or anything else, just your writing paper that you wrote on.
Take my card. I got finished. I just realized this is kind of like
I don't know. I was
We've got to talk about that. Remind me. We need to share that. Thank you. Okay, writers. Okay, we're ready. On our 2-hour delay schedule, we got to do this quickly because we've got to get to lunch and recess. That's super important, way more important than writing. Okay?
No, writing's more important.
No.
Okay, maybe writing's more important. I don't know. You guys are awfully quiet. You kind of scare me a little bit. Okay, so I need you to give me 2 minutes. Ready? Okay. As you guys were writing, I was walking around and I was trying to check in with you and feel what you were doing and hear what you were doing as writers. And I heard some things that made me feel like I was in a 4th grade classroom, not a 3rd grade classroom. So I need you to go ahead and say, thank you, brain. You rocked it today. And you guys made me look really good. Okay, because all of you started a literary essay today. Every single one of you. A lot of things were going on. I want to give some of you, or all of you, a chance to share something that you did today. So I want you to skim back over your writing, and I want you to pick that one sentence that you're like, this is awesome writing. This makes me feel like I've got this, and this is good writing. Look at your writing and find that sentence that you're feeling like my writing muscles really showed today. Find that sentence. Find that sentence. Find that sentence. Turn and tell your partner your sentence. I'm going to be listening in.
It says when they were saying hateful things at him, since he was about his and they were segregation. And they said
For example, me came that day, saying terrible, horrible, hateful things at Jackson. The girls were on the and I said,
Just a sentence, not your whole story. Just a sentence. No. Just a sentence.
every time the friends yelled at Jackson about matters I did that.
They felt welcome. That was the best one, you're right. Hold on. All right, I'm going to bring you back to me. Thank you for sharing with your friends a really good sentence that you were feeling good about. I want to share a couple of things that I heard that kind of just made me feel like this is amazing. And can you tell me the word that you were using in your writing?
It was segregation.
Have you guys heard that word before?
Yes.
Okay, that's a big idea in our world, right? That is powerful. Tell me what you were thinking.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but your words will never hurt me.
Is that something that we've heard before?
Yes.
Is that something we could add into our writing and make it more powerful?
Yes. Try to if I remember it.
As elaboration? Maybe. Maybe it is.
Same.
All of us are writers. All of us can write literary essays, and all of us can write them very differently. These things are all big. Tell me what you put in your writing because you were thinking about how you feel when someone smiles at you.
One's white, one's black. He smiled, and that made him feel welcomed.
Does that make you feel like, yes, that makes you feel good, right?
Makes you feel.
These are powerful things that we do when we elaborate. And all of you had lots of amazing stuff going on. I wish I had time to make all of you share with me, but we don't because we've got to get to recess and lunch.
He focused on all the good things instead of the bad things.
Yes! That's amazing. Thank you for being awesome today. Awesome work on your literary essays. I'm not going to keep them. I'm going to give them back to your teacher, but I do want to glance over them while I have lunch today. So I want to keep this paper. Make sure your name's on it. If your name's not on it, please go put your name on it and bring it to me.
My name's gonna be on the back.
That's fine if it's on the back, as long as it's on there. Your name's on there? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I still had one more sentence, but
That's okay.
I said one at the end where it says,
Okay, let's start with what you saw, what you noticed, questions, things that you felt like went well or didn't. Actually, let me start with, the mini lesson was 16 minutes, 6 minutes too long. But I really needed to read that excerpt with them. So I would have wanted to use a story or a character that they already knew really well. But because it was a quick standalone lesson, I wanted to, this is just, that excerpt is so powerful. And it also is in the 3rd grade Basel. It's in Journeys, so we could keep going with that. They have access to it. So that did add on to the time a little bit more than we wanted it to be.
So why wouldn't you have started with the book? Just curious.
I would have, but we just didn't have time. So typically I would want to use a story or an excerpt of something they've already read and know well, that they have all the background on. So that's why it was important that I had to read it today, because they needed to know that information in the background on that so that they could form a thesis. Mm-hmm. But yes, typically we would not.
Have they read that book in this class?
No, they have not.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I asked. I checked in. Yeah.
Good, okay.
But yeah, so, and it's just, there are so many things going on in there, and you can see they started pulling things out.
Mhm.
I didn't say segregation. A lot of them were starting to talk about one of the little boys' thesis was black and white teammates can be friends, or black and white people can be teammates. These are all huge ideas that they can elaborate on. So kind of going in that route and giving them lots of options of a thesis that they could come up with. But typically they would have already read that, so we wouldn't have to reread, we could just have them skim through it for reminders of evidence. So that's going to bring that mini lesson time back down to 10, 11 minutes. Other things that we saw, that we noticed, questions. Yeah.
I do this a lot.
Good.
So when they went through, they were thinking of their thesis on the carpet, they were thinking of their elaboration, but then when they were set back to their seats, you hadn't actually asked them what it was. Sometimes I've observed lessons where they say, tell me what you're thinking, and have them actually tell you what they're thinking before they leave. Is that something that you find isn't helpful?
I had them turn and talk to somebody because I can't call on all of them. Mm-hmm. So my hope is they turned and told their partner their thesis idea, and then they go back and work. And quickly, we can identify who didn't have an idea. Mm-hmm. I put ideas up here. I even had one student, and I said, you can steal one of my ideas. Go take a look and write that as a thesis. Right. We always want them to share their thinking, but it can't be individual because our mini lesson's going to take too long. So I had them write it in the air. So ideally, they've put it out there, and then they turned and talked about their evidence. So that was my way of having them test it out or try it out.
I had a question about that too, because I wondered if it was purposeful, because knowing them, I would guess that maybe at least half probably didn't have it solidified when they went back to their seats. And so I was kind of wondering, was that a purposeful move on your part of it's okay, we're gonna walk through these stages of what you should be doing, and then when you get back to their seat is probably when some of them started to solidify what it really was that they were going to write about, like, oh, I do have to take this on. So I just didn't know if it was a purposeful move by you to like not do that, or to not give them, and like to build on that, to not write those like bold enough that they could have copied them from their seat, because then they like, which it's okay to borrow, but like then they become dependent upon your opinions, and so wondering if that was also purposeful.
Yeah. So lots of things. So this, I mean, and this is this was planned to be a standalone lesson. So I wanted to come in and do something that felt meaningful to kids and give them an opportunity for writing that could showcase the workshop experience, but doesn't necessarily need to continue, but could. So it's not like, this is not a typical, oh, this is session 4 out of 12 or whatever. So lots of thinking going into it also. I don't know the students. I don't know their writing abilities. I don't know any special difficulties that any of them are having or anything like that. So I also have to make it quite generic. Other things that I could have done is, if I was feeling in the mini lesson that a lot of them were just lost, I would have said, if you're ready to get this work started, off you go. If you're not, stay right here with me. And I would have kept those few right here with me until they could tell me their thesis, and then I send them off. But they were interacting. There's a lot of adults. There's a camera. Like, there's just a lot going on. So when I was like, give me a thumbs up if you have a thesis, all of their thumbs were up. Right? And that's fine. We send them off. And by the end, we had all of them writing. They were all trying it out. They were all doing something. They were writing something. And even if they don't start with their thesis, because there were 4 or 5 of them that started with evidence, that's okay. That's then what we start teaching. So then I pull those kiddos together and I say, read me that first sentence. All of them read. I'm noticing here that this feels like evidence, not a thesis. And the little boy over here he had a powerful thesis statement, but it was evidence. And it was a good, amazing sentence that was like 12 words long. But his thesis needed to be, Pee-wee is brave. So we sometimes have to back up and think, this is an amazing piece of evidence. And then what he thought was evidence was elaboration. He was talking about the evidence. So kind of backing them up and saying, okay, let's think very clearly. What do you want to prove right now? Pee-wee is brave, and backing up to that thesis. But they were all writing, and they were all trying to pull from the text. So that, for me, that is very much a first step of literary essay writing.
Is one of the ways that you try to get them to come up with their own words for their thesis? I heard you say, what can you feel about this person? I've said, what can you think or feel about this person? That is but to keep it short and sweet, to get to that thesis at their age. I mean, are those the words you usually typically find yourself using to, in a nutshell, try to get someone to come up with their thesis?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then would you go on? I mean, to me, when I heard you working with them, it was the evidence versus the thesis. Yep. To clarify that and get that figured out. But Kadari, I mean, she's out there a while, but the little girl, but she came up with a really nice, succinct, powerful thesis statement. I mean, she got there. So
yeah, and that was they wrote for 20 minutes. They all had something going on. Like, none of them had empty papers. None of them had something completely off the wall. It was all relative. They had something, that was just 20 minutes. With no real direction beyond, this is what we do, go try it out. And it's a good starting point for us to see, like, okay, I'm going to glance over these. And when I think about, there's amazing stuff going on in here. There's amazing language. There's amazing things going on in all of these.
So Crystal, did you, I might have missed this, did you tell them to use their own words or to just take the evidence word for word? I don't remember.
I didn't state it at all. I just said we need to use evidence, and then we elaborate on evidence. So that's something that if we're noticing they're literally just plagiarizing things and it's not succinct and it's not making sense, that's a mini lesson. We stop and talk about that and how to do better with that. But for today, no. Today, all I said was, we need to state a big opinion, we need to put evidence in, and we need to elaborate.
So is that the follow-up lesson, that you take what they've written and then you go through it?
You would, yeah,
It
like
could be.
based on what they're.
It could be.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of them, there were very few that were just copying things at random.
Mhm.
The majority of them were copying and saying in the story, and then like fans were yelling at Jackie. That's using evidence.
Mhm.
Like, we're not to a point where our evidence needs to be clearly stated, like on page 4, the story told us that. So for me in 3rd grade, saying in the story, fans were yelling at Jackie, even though it's word for word from the text, that's using text evidence. That's using text evidence. Now, if they copy the whole paragraph, that's different. But pulling something specifically out of the text and using it as evidence is strong for them in 3rd grade. And a lot of times, like in 3rd grade, it's not, a lot of times their reason and evidence are going to be interconnected and not separate, and that's okay in 3rd grade too. In 3rd grade, reasons and evidence, they're the same thing. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's not until 4th and 5th grade that we really move into this is the reason and this is the evidence, and that they're separate. That's very deep thinking of what's going on in text. So in 3rd grade, it's not important to make that differentiation. The reason and the evidence very much are the same thing for them in 3rd grade.
So then, like, I guess with that, I'm thinking about the kids that totally got your lesson, went back to your seat, started right away, and they were nearly finished when other kids were still getting started. So then how would you go about coaching them? Because they did all that and they're done. The I'm doners kind of kids.
Yeah, so I would talk a lot. So many of them that were done today, they still need to have a conclusion. They still might need to add in more elaboration. If they want to make it more powerful, they need to find more evidence. So one thing we were talking about, and I thought maybe we would get to, is referring them back to the book. Now, this was only part of the book. Go back through the book and read and see if you can find more evidence of this. And for testing purposes, when we're thinking about this for air, they're going to have another passage. They're going to have more. We want to teach them, go back and reread that and find more. Find more evidence. So teaching that to them. So this was a basic introduction. So if I wanted to keep going with literary essay, I'm going to build probably 8 to 10 more mini lessons, more teaching points to keep running with this as a unit for the next couple of weeks. And those things that we can build is what happens when we do feel like we're done. No, get our writing muscles warmed. We just got them warmed up. Like, now let's really show them how we write. And we teach them what to do then. Go back and reread, find more evidence, look at the other passage. Can we compare? All of these things. And we're teaching those in mini lessons. And we're teaching those in mini lessons knowing there's a group of students not ready for that mini lesson. So it's super important then that we pull that group and we do some of that small group work. How do we buffer this work for them? How do we support them so that they can be successful as well? Because they might not be ready to go and find more evidence. They might just need to talk about the evidence that they have. Or maybe we need to back up and they're not writing bold thesis statements. So, but we do a lot of that work in one-to-one conferencing or in small groups if we have groups of students that need that same support. And that would happen while kids are off writing.
Would you have Post-its or other tools for the kids? Like, we were working with Bentley, and he was one of those that said that he was done, so you told him to elaborate. But when you left, he erased a lot of what he had already. So what would you do to guide him to keep what he has, because they're great thoughts, but then plug in?
Yes, I would definitely take time to teach that we don't want to erase it because our brain did really hard work and it's good work. I would teach them to draw arrows. I would teach them to use Post-its to jot down and put it right on there and stick it on, because this is drafting, right? So that when they make their final piece, then they're going to take all this information and put it in their final piece, their published piece, if you will, or their final copy, whatever we refer to them as. But yes, I would definitely. So when I work in Writer's Workshop, when it's my classroom, students know that erasing is like the worst of worst. Like, you erase that, you're going to see the principal. Like, it's like, that's the worst thing you can do in my classroom is erase your brain's thinking. Like, we don't do that to our brain. We don't erase it. If we don't like it, we can draw a line through it. But I also teach them that to be a good teacher and to help them, I have to see what their brain was thinking. So I don't want them to erase it because I want to be able to see it. We can cross it out. We don't have to like it. But we don't ever erase it because our brain did really hard work to get it there. That's what I tell them. They just erase things like, no, we don't do that kind of thing. We don't erase. I also have used strategies of teaching them to pick a different color and add in. I've worked with teachers that make them write every other line, so when they revise and edit, they can put stuff in the lines that are there. Post-its, I've had teachers use notebooks where they only write on one side, so all their revising and editing can be on this side with arrows like crazy and color-coded. But it's whatever works. But yes, that's a huge thing that I would definitely want to address with students that are erasing and feeling like, oh, that wasn't good. Because when you're erasing, you feel like, oh, that wasn't right or that wasn't good enough, so I'm going to erase and try again. And that's not the message we're trying to send. So yes, that's huge. We want to talk through that with kids that are doing that. Or if it's a class thing, it can be a quick mini lesson. Okay, I want to teach you guys that when you write something, your brain's working hard, and we don't want to erase that work. We want to just add on to it, or just put a line through it if we're like, oh, that's not what I meant to say. Let me try that again. But we don't want to erase it because our brain worked hard. Other questions, thoughts, notices, concerns, fears, phobias, worries?
I think the honest part of me is always, do you always pre-write? Like, let's say you're doing this every single day, you're in the grind, and are you always pre-writing your charts? Okay.
No. I'm absolutely printing them and posting the Post-its from the printer up
Right.
in the case that's what I'm doing, unless I'm doing something special.
Special.
Yes. And I always try, a lot of times I write this with kids.
Okay.
I just turn around and I say, let's think about this. I'm thinking, okay, Teammates is a story that teaches. I put it right up there.
That really adds time to your mini
Right.
lesson. Like, so if you're not pre-write, like if you, so you either take that time before school or like at a different time, or you're adding it to your mini lesson which you're pre-writing, which is sometimes good because then kids have a little bit more ownership when you're creating it together. So that was just a question, but it was just an observation too, watching them today, made me feel like, it's almost, I don't know, I feel this way as a teacher, I can bring it, you can bring it to a one-time lesson as, you can do it, you can bring it to a one-time lesson and, have everything go really well. And it was just interesting, I had a connection with them because I was like, oh, here they are bringing it to this one time. They can bring it to that one time. The rigor comes in bringing it every single day. And that is the hard, that's the hard part for me sometimes is bringing it every single day, 5 days a week, all of the time. But it was just a nice connection for me to make with my students because I thought, oh, they feel the same way.
Yeah.
I do. You know what I mean? When I'm asking them to bring this, what they did today, every single time.
Full, Miss Pearson.
Yeah, I know. It was just a nice, this is outside of the lesson, but it was a nice, connection. I thought, oh, yeah, I'm doing the same thing that they're doing. I'm trying to bring it every day. So there you go.
Yeah, I like how you pump them up. I think that really helps. When you say that's powerful, get that on your paper. This is really important stuff. I think that helps them bring it. Because it is hard to do every day.
It is.
It's tedious.
So we watched this lesson last year when Lisa did it
At East, yep.
And so hers was a little different. And I don't remember, John and I were talking about it, I don't remember some of the parts that you did. And I think the pumping up, not that she didn't do that, but you did it in a different way. And I think that's what, because I was saying to myself, I think we can take things that you do that we didn't see initially.
And so a couple of things that are different from that one is, and I debated this a lot, is in the lesson that she did at East, she allowed them to choose a book that they knew and choose characters and choose a thesis. I wanted to micromanage it. I want to set this up first instead of just letting them really go off. I mean, I let them go off, but I micromanaged it.
You did.
I micromanaged it. I said, we're using this story. Here's your evidence. Run with it. So then, as we continue this on, we might spend another day or two with this excerpt using teammates and working harder at this specific work that they're doing with this literary essay. And then next steps absolutely are, okay, now a book that you're reading. Think about a character. What's your big, bold opinion about this character? Write me a literary essay on this. You know the steps, you know what you're doing now. We've done it as a class, we have our class work that we've done it. And then I was also mentioning, get online and get some of those released objects or subjects from AIR. Okay guys, let's use everything we know now. So we know this, the setup, the framing, the thinking, model, what did they call it?
The outline that they were using.
What did he call it? His planning.
His planning.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
planning.
they know that.
said.
They
Yes.
know that they need these
That's our
three
planning
things.
sheet.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
know so much. Now how do we use everything we know to blow those people away that are going to look at the stuff that we're writing for them? And we phrase it like that. Let's really show them what we know. Let's really blow them away. Using things like segregation, it made me feel welcome. These are huge. These are big, big things for writing for third graders. So then moving it into, okay, let's look. This is what the test says. Here are the two stories. We're going to pull evidence from both. And we turn this into very much still a unit of study in the workshop environment, but with a test prep feel for us to set them up for success.
I liked how you didn't just give them all highlighters when they went back to their seat, and when people were having problems finding the evidence, you gave them one instead of, because I could see kids just starting to highlight everything.
Using it as a tool. So I had originally planned that was going to happen in the mini lesson. If you look at my mini lesson plan, it's nothing. I didn't do any of this. It's complete, but I had planned, and that's why they were here. I was going to give them all a highlighter, so they were going to think of their thesis, write it in the air, and then take their highlighter and highlight their first piece of evidence. But then I wanted them to turn and talk, and so I was like, I'll do that. We'll see if we can conference and we can get that going. But we want to give them as many tools as we can. So sometimes tools might be Post-its, or tools might be highlighters, or different colored pens or pencils, or whatever we can give them to help them keep going. I've even had kids that are really struggling with these differences, color code. So I want you to highlight your thesis. Then I want you to take a red pen and underline your evidence. And then I want you to take a green pen and circle your elaboration or whatever. Because typically, this is going to be the first sentence. This is going to be the first sentence of a paragraph. And then this is going to be the rest of the paragraph. And then, of course, we didn't talk anything today about concluding or finishing up with. And this is why teammates teaches us, or this is how teammates teaches us about friendship. This is my proof. Or we didn't even talk about closing it up. So that's another mini lesson that we want to do. But they already know that from their planning. A lot of them have that. A lot of them had their intro and their conclusion, and then they were filling in the middle. And that's awesome. That's great. This is what you're trying to prove. This is how you're saying I'm doing it. Now go in and do it. How do I prove it? How do I build this up? Okay.
I also liked your language of what are you trying to do as a writer right now, instead of saying you weren't controlling it by saying I see you have your, they had to use the language.
Yes, I'll guide them, but I don't want them to read what they're writing to me. I don't want them to say, oh, I'm writing about teammates. I know that. I want them to tell me I'm trying to state my thesis. I'm trying to find evidence. I'm trying to elaborate. And if they can't get there, a few of them were like, oh, I'm writing teammates as a story that, and I was like, and I let them finish. I'm not going to stop them. But then I was like, okay, so tell me what you're doing as a writer. What are you trying to do right now? Are you stating your opinion? Are you including evidence? Are you finding evidence? Are you elaborating? What is it that you're trying to do as a writer to make this better? And then most of them were able to say one of these. And that's what we want to get them to. We want them to start thinking in a way of what am I trying to do versus just summarizing what they're writing to me. Because that's also how I can help coach them. I have to understand what it is they're trying to do. And a lot of times we can't tell what they're trying to do. So we've got to get them in the mindset where they tell us what they're trying to do, and then we can coach them to help them do what they're trying to do.